Hello and welcome back to the Scenario 7 podcast YouTube channel. My name is Sam and this is our brand new F1 fantasy show. Each week we're going to be helping you guys pick your teams, looking at fluctuating driver prices, form and reflecting on how we did in the previous week. I think it's about time I introduce my co-hosts. It's our in-house F1 fantasy expert, Matt Collier. Welcome, mate.
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you, Sam. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing all good, thanks. And first of all, our code to our fantasy league is on screen now. Feel free to join, with the winner getting a prize at the end of the season and dethrone Matt from his fantasy perch. Let's first look at how F1 Fantasy works, because we know there's a few of you guys that are doing this for the first time, and you might need an explanation for how it works. So each team starts with a budget of 100 million. With this money, you have 5 drivers you have to pick. So out of a field of 20 plus any others that get added this season, we've just heard the news of course, Nico Hulkenberg driving. So it was going to be 21, 22, depending with COVID, but you have to pick from that field 5 drivers and 1 constructor or team. So the prices of the drivers fluctuate as the year goes on, reflecting form, quali streaks, and race streaks. Each week, you must choose one of your drivers valued under 20 million to get double points. That is your turbo driver. You also get a mega driver chip, which triples a driver's points for the weekend, but be careful because you can only use it once in the season. The final chips you can use is a wild card chip. Each race week, you can make 3 changes with any more costing you points. The wild card allows you to make as many changes as you like. You get 2 of these, 1 for each half of the season. Your second one is playable from after Hungary. So that's how you play. That's all the intricacies of F1 fantasy for anyone new. With the fancy prices being out for some time now, Matt, who do you think are the best valued drivers and teams?
Let's start with the teams first. There's a lot of good teams, I think, this season, especially with the new regulations. But I first have to point out the team that I'm wearing, and that is Mercedes. Was it 8 constructors in a row now, and they've always just been so good at scoring points. I think Hamilton and Russell will do very well this season, so they're coming in at 34.5. You know what you're getting with Mercedes. The constructors speak for themselves, so they're always a very solid pick. Another pick that's a bit cheaper, but it still is very good value in my opinion, is Ferrari. They're at 25 million. Carlos Sainz and Leclerc had a brilliant season last season. They're both very good teams in my opinion, so either one will get you loads of points. Moving on to the drivers, there's quite a few drivers actually. I was very surprised about how cheap Kevin Magnussen was. I saw it popped up on my phone that he'd been replaced for Mazepin, and Mazepin's value and Kevin Magnussen's value stayed the same. So it's just they were both priced at 5.5. So it wasn't even like F1 Fantasy upped Magnussen's price. They just put, quick, we need to change this. I think he's extremely underpriced. He's got a lot of F1 experience, and there's of course all the big guns. There's Lewis Hamilton, Verstappen, Russell, Leclerc, Perez, Sainz, just to name a few. Mr. World Champion Max Verstappen, it'll cost you 30.5 million. He's very slightly cheaper, only 0.5 cheaper than Lewis Hamilton. But the 2 Ferraris again look extremely good value. Charles Leclerc coming at 18 million and Carlos Sainz coming at 17.5.
Yeah, just picking up on your Kevin Magnussen point there, I was also pretty shocked that they didn't get his price increased at all, because he has got a lot of experience in F1. He, in my opinion anyway, has been quite underrated in what he achieved, not just with Haas, but throughout his F1 career. I mean, he's a fantastic driver. So 5.5 million, looking like a steal. But now, from the best value drivers and teams, let's look at the worst value, that people should not necessarily stay away from the whole game, because prices do fluctuate, but definitely at the start should stay away from. So who are the worst valued drivers and teams?
I'll start with constructors. For me, the constructors is the most important pick out of the bunch. This is where you get two for the price of one, a bit like a Sainsbury's or a Tesco deal, but F1 terms. Yeah, so for me, the cheaper ones, for example, Alpine, Haas, Alfa Romeo, Williams, you want to stay well clear of those. You want to be aiming for the top guns at the top. For example, Mercedes costs you 34.5, and you're getting Lewis Hamilton, who costs 31 million, and you're getting George Russell, costs 24 million, just for the price of 34.5. So it kind of speaks for itself. So, yeah, so avoid the likes of Haas. I think Haas is like 6 million. Just, yeah, it's honestly, it's just not worth it. And then move on to the drivers. There's quite a few drivers that I think just don't wow me in any way. For example, Yuki Tsunoda. I think last season he got about 77 points last season, and a lot of it was because of his crashes, amount of red flags that he caused, and also Gasly was just constantly just beating him in qualifying in the race. So I personally stay clear of Yuki Tsunoda. One Yu Zhou, new driver this season, costing 8 million. I think that's quite expensive personally for a rookie, the only rookie on the grid, when you can get more experienced drivers like Kevin Magnussen, Mick Schumacher, and Nicholas Latifi. So yeah, they're my worst picks.
Very interesting that someone like Guan Yu Zhou is priced at 8 million above. I mean, some of the options that you named there. It will be interesting to see how he does, though. Yeah, probably stay clear. I think it's time to look at Matt's current team for this race week, so you could talk us through why you picked each driver. Of course, this is subject to change. As Matt, we all know, you like to tinker your team up until the deadline, which I'm going to say now, remind you at the end of the video, is an hour before qualifying. So get that all done, get your team finalized before then. But yeah, let's go through your team, Matt. First of all, Kevin Magnussen, 5.5 million, Haas driver. Why did you pick him?
As I explained earlier, I was very surprised at how cheap he was. Kevin Magnussen's been in the sport for quite a while. He's been around the blocks in McLaren, in a Renault. I think 5.5 is really cheap. The fact that he's the lowest driver out of all of them and has so much more experience than the likes of Guan Yu Zhou, even the T3, for example, and has seen a bit like a differential this season. No one quite knows how they're going to do, and the fact that you're paying the lowest price for a driver, I think you might as well take the risk, spend those funds elsewhere. So that's why I've gone with Kevin Magnussen in my team.
Fair enough, mate. Next up is Sir Lancelot himself, Lance Stroll, 9.5 million, driving for Aston Martin. What was the thinking behind picking Lance?
He was a lot cheaper this season than he was last season, and when you look at the points from last season compared to his teammate, they're only 1 point difference from last season, and I think Sebastian Vettel's priced at 11.5. So there's a big difference from 9.5 to 11.5, and well, from a previous podcast, we know how much Robert praised Stroll at the end of season review of most improved, and I think he's got a point to prove. He's had chances last season. His consistency wasn't quite there, but at 9.5, an Aston Martin that should hopefully be going up the grid and improving, I still think that's a very good price for a driver like him.
Yeah, so we have not one, but two Haas drivers involved. So your first pick was Kevin Magnussen, of course. But you've also got Mick Schumacher, 1 million more than Kevin at 6.5 million. Why did you pick two drivers from a team that did so poorly last year? And more specifically, why did you pick Mick?
As I've explained in other podcasts, Mick, despite being in the slowest car, still impressed me. He's got the rookie season under his belt now. He still managed to out-qualify a McLaren, which, looking back at it, was a phenomenal qualifying from Mick in Turkey. And the thing with picking two Haas drivers is you're basically covering points, because each driver gets extra points for beating their teammate during qualifying and the race. So if I have two from the same team, I guarantee those beating teammate points. So that's one of the strategies with picking both Haas drivers. And the second one is that I can use the funds elsewhere to strengthen the team. And last of all, Haas look like a very good, a budget team that can surprise teams. We've got a new regulation. Nobody really knows how some teams are going to do, so it's worth the punt early on.
Very, very interesting. Now we've cranked up the heat from low to high very quickly here, with your next pick being Max Verstappen, 30.5 million, Red Bull driver, last year's world champion. I doubt it takes a rocket scientist to figure out why you've picked him, but can you give us an explanation otherwise?
Yeah, I think Verstappen will be fighting for the title this season. You know what you're going to get with Verstappen, and that's going to be a lot of points. I think that for the price of Verstappen, 30.5, he'll definitely be getting a large amount of the points in the team. It's important to have a premium driver for the mega driver, as you explained. So that means that when it comes to my mega driver, I know exactly who I want to put it on. I won't want to put it on, for example, Lance Stroll. So Verstappen at 30.5, premium asset. You've got to have the top guys in there to rack up the big points. And I think throughout the season, he'll get a lot of beating the teammate extra points over Sergio Perez. But yeah, that's why I've gone for Max Verstappen.
Very interesting. The final driver now, and it's AlphaTauri's very own Pierre Gasly, sitting at 13.5 million. What attracted you to Pierre?
I think he's very underpriced. He had so many good results last season. He did get let down a lot by strategies, and a prime example of that was Qatar. He started the race P2, and the fact that they ended up finishing 11th just goes to show how many more points he could have had. He's a driver that's got a lot of potential. The fact that he's only, for example, he's 13.5, he's only 2 million more than Sebastian Vettel. And all you have to do is look back to last season, how many points Gasly got last season. I think he's a really good option. His teammate's Yuki Tsunoda, so I expect Gasly to get a lot of the beat your teammate extra points. So yeah, that's why I'm going with Gasly.
The constructor you have chosen is the team you're repping right now in Mercedes, last year's constructors champions, coming in at 34.5 million. You talked to them as you talked earlier about them being best value, but can you repeat again why you decided to spend so much of your budget on a constructor?
Yeah, sure. So as I was discussing earlier, the price of Lewis Hamilton alone is 31 million, and the price of George Russell's 24 million. That's a lot, but you can get Mercedes for 34.5, and that covers both of them. And as I've explained earlier, they've won 8 constructors in a row. You know what you're getting with Mercedes, and that's going to be a lot of points. And that's always really good as well for qualifying and race streaks, because all you have to do in qualifying and race streaks is finish in the top 10, and you're basically going to guarantee that with Mercedes.
So we have gone through your team, but who are some alternate options that people could put in their teams, or that you're potentially looking to swap in before the deadline?
Yeah, there's always ones that I'm keeping a close eye on. One of them I've got written down is Valtteri Bottas at 9 million. I think that's a very, very good price. For example, that Bottas has got so much more experience over the rookie of Guan Yu Zhou, and I feel like Bottas will get a lot of points, even if he's in a slower car that's not quite up to the speed in terms of the midfield. He'll get a lot of beat your teammate extra points. So yes, well, I've gone with Bottas as an alternative.
Have you got any other options, potential teams that you can swap, or are you pretty set on Mercedes and any other drivers, or just Bottas?
There's other ones to Bottas. For example, I think that there's some midfield ones that are very good. The likes of Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz is 17 million. 1 million cheaper than Leclerc, and Carlos Sainz got more points in the Drivers' Championship than Leclerc last season, and he's also very consistent. Carlos Sainz, and I think that's why Carlos Sainz is a very good value. And then onto the teams, some alternative teams. Red Bull could be a good one. They've got the likes of Max Verstappen, the world champion, and also Sergio Perez. So if you want last season's world champion, you can have them in the constructors team, and you can also have them in the drivers as well. And then last but not least, Ferrari, 25 million. They're looking very good this season. I'll definitely be keeping a close eye on them. So yeah, Ferrari's also a very good option.
I personally have got Carlos Sainz in my team and Ferrari as a constructor, so they're a duo that I'm hoping is going to bring a lot of points this year. That pretty much wraps up our video looking at going through all kinds of things with prices, Matt's team, and I hope you find it helpful. Remember that each team gets locked in an hour before the start of qualifying. So get all your changes done by then. Don't be looking red in the face when you've completely forgotten about it and you're watching qualifying and realize that you can't make any changes. So get it all done by then. Thank you for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe for more content like this. Our socials are linked below if you want to stay on top of all the things we have coming up. And we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.